Scientists just proved that you can reverse your biological age in 4 weeks. Not slow it down, not pause it, reverse it, and they did it with food alone. Not a drug, not a supplement, not a clinical procedure. A 4-week change in what people ate was enough to make older adults measurably, biologically younger. Younger in their cells, younger in their DNA markers, younger in the physiological systems that determine how fast the body ages. If you are over 60 and you have ever looked in the mirror and felt like your body was aging faster than it should, this video is going to change the way you think about that. Because what this study proved is that biological aging is not a fixed sentence. It is a process that responds to what you do, and specifically what you eat, starting from your very next meal. Here is what I am going to give you today. You are going to understand exactly what biological age is and why it matters more than the number on your birth certificate. You are going to learn the 4 food principles the researchers used to achieve this reversal. And I am going to reveal the single principle that had the largest measurable impact of all, the one that will surprise you. And I am saving it for the end, because once you hear it, everything else falls into place. Stay with me, because the thing I am not telling you yet is the thing that changes everything. I want to tell you about a patient I will call Grace. She was 71 years old, retired school teacher, meticulous about her health on the surface. She took her medications every morning without fail. She walked for 30 minutes most days. She avoided fried food and fast food. She did everything her doctor told her to do. But Grace was exhausted, not the kind of tired that a good night solves. The deep, settled kind that makes getting up feel like an effort and makes the afternoon feel like wading through fog. Her joints ached in the mornings. She was catching colds more often than she used to. Her last blood results showed inflammation markers that concerned both of us. She sat across from me one afternoon and said something quietly that I have thought about many times since. She said, "I feel like I am disappearing inside my own body, and I do not know why. I am doing everything right." I gave her the standard guidance that day, the guidance I was trained to give. Maintain your medications, keep walking, reduce sodium. See you in 3 months. But I could not stop thinking about what she said, because Grace was doing everything right, and something was still accelerating her aging. And the more I began studying the emerging science on biological age, the real age of a person's cells rather than the age on their driver's license, the more I understood why the standard guidance had left a gap that Grace had fallen into. What I eventually told Grace, based on the same research I'm about to share with you, changed her outcomes in ways that moved even me. I am going to come back to her at the end of this video, because her story is the answer to the loop we just opened. So, let us build the foundation. Because before we talk about reversing biological age, I want you to truly understand what it is, not in vague terms, in a way that makes the rest of this video land properly. Your chronological age is fixed. It is the number of years since you were born, and it moves in one direction only. Nothing you eat, nothing you do, nothing you take changes your chronological age. Your biological age is completely different. It is a measurement of how your cells, your tissues, and your physiological systems actually function right now, regardless of how long you have been alive. And scientists can now measure this with remarkable precision using something called epigenetic clocks. These are markers on your DNA that shift in a predictable pattern as cells age. They measure real functional aging, and they are not fixed. They change. They respond. Here is the counterintuitive truth at the heart of all of this. Most of what accelerates biological aging is not time. It is inflammation, chronic, low-grade, systemic inflammation that produces no dramatic symptoms, no obvious signs, but quietly drives every major aging-related disease at the same time. Heart disease, cognitive decline, metabolic dysfunction, joint deterioration, immune failure. All of them share one upstream driver, and that driver is primarily determined by what you eat every single day. This is the central finding of the University of Sydney study. It is the conclusion of hundreds of peer-reviewed papers published in the last decade on epigenetic aging, and it is why 4 weeks of dietary change was enough to move the needle. Now, before we go further, I want to ask you something, and I genuinely want you to answer in the comments because I read every single one. Which of these two describes you right now? Are you someone who eats relatively carefully but still feels like your body is aging faster than it should? Or are you someone who knows their diet needs work but has never had it explained clearly enough to actually change it? Drop option A or option B below, because this community helps me understand where to focus next. Now, the 4 food principles. Principle 1. Remove what is aging you before you add what protects you. This sounds obvious. It is not. Because the foods that most aggressively accelerate biological aging are not the ones most people suspect. We know about fast food, we know about soda, but the most damaging category for seniors specifically is ultra-processed packaged food. The crackers, the cereals, the flavored soups, the ready meals, the snack bars marketed as healthy. Here is exactly what they do inside your body. Ultra-processed foods contain emulsifiers, artificial additives, and refined carbohydrates that disrupt the bacterial balance in your gut lining. This disruption weakens the tight junctions in the intestinal wall, creating microscopic gaps. Bacterial fragments and inflammatory compounds leak into the bloodstream. Your immune system activates chronically in response. That chronic immune activation is systemic inflammation, and systemic inflammation drives every epigenetic aging clock in the wrong direction simultaneously. The researchers found that participants who reduced ultra-processed food intake showed measurable improvement in biological age markers within the first 2 weeks, before any other change had time to compound. For beginners, start with one category this week, not all of them. 1. The packaged snacks, the flavored crackers, the commercial breakfast cereals. Remove one and replace it with a whole food equivalent. Your gut lining begins responding within 72 hours of a dietary shift. For those already eating cleanly, apply the 5-ingredient rule. If a food's ingredient list contains more than 5 items and includes words you cannot pronounce, it is almost certainly ultra-processed. If your grandmother would not have recognized it as food, your gut lining does not recognize it either. The real outcome: reduced bloating within days, improved energy within 2 weeks, measurably lower inflammatory markers within 4 to 6 weeks. And now we have epigenetic data confirming those changes are accompanied by genuine biological age reversal. Principle 2. Choose protein that fights inflammation while it feeds your muscles. This is where most senior dietary advice falls short. It tells you to eat more protein. It does not tell you that the type of protein matters as much as the amount. Processed meats deliver protein alongside compounds that activate inflammatory pathways. Nitrates, oxidized fats, high sodium. The protein benefit is partially canceled by the inflammatory cost. Anti-inflammatory proteins deliver the same muscle-preserving nutrition alongside compounds that suppress inflammatory pathways. Omega-3 fatty acids in fatty fish, choline in eggs, soluble fiber in legumes. The net effect on biological aging is dramatically different. The University of Sydney study found that participants who shifted toward fatty fish, eggs, and legumes as their primary protein sources showed compounding improvements in epigenetic markers, alongside improvements in muscle function and inflammatory blood tests simultaneously. For beginners, the formula is 1 anti-inflammatory protein source at every meal. Eggs at breakfast, canned salmon or chickpeas at lunch, fresh fish or a lentil dish at dinner. You do not need to count grams. You need to make the right category choice at each meal. For those more advanced, the timing matters. Research shows that in adults over 65, the muscle protein synthesis response to food is strongest earlier in the day. Your largest protein portion is better placed at breakfast or lunch than dinner. Not because dinner does not matter, because the biology of aging changes when and how efficiently your body uses what you give it. The real outcome: preserved muscle mass, reduced systemic inflammation, improved epigenetic aging markers, and sustained energy across the day that most seniors describe as feeling like themselves again. Now, I want to pause here because I want to remind you of the loop we opened at the start of this video. The single principle that showed the largest measurable impact on biological age reversal in the study. I am coming to it, and when I give it to you, I want you to have everything else we have covered as the context for why it works. But first, I want to mention something I am building for this community. A full resource based on exactly what we are covering today, structured so you can begin implementing it without having to remember everything from a single video. Keep an eye out for that, and if you are not subscribed yet, that is the reason to do it now. Principle 3. Give your body polyphenols every single day. Polyphenols are plant compounds, the pigments that make blueberries blue and spinach dark green, the bitter notes in extra virgin olive oil, the warmth in turmeric. And they are, based on current nutritional science, the most powerful dietary tool available for slowing and reversing biological aging. Here is the mechanism that makes them so significant. Polyphenols communicate directly with your epigenome. They interact with the molecular switches that determine which of your genes are active and which are silent. They activate a protein called SIRT1, sometimes called the longevity protein, which promotes DNA repair, reduces the accumulation of aged dysfunctional cells, and suppresses the inflammatory pathways that drive biological aging at the cellular level. Blueberries, dark leafy greens, extra virgin olive oil, green tea, dark chocolate above 80% cacao, red and purple vegetables, turmeric, rosemary, garlic. These are not just healthy foods. They are epigenetic signals, telling your cells to repair, protect, and age more slowly. The University of Sydney study found that participants who significantly increased polyphenol intake showed the most rapid improvement in epigenetic clock measurements. The effect was measurable within 2 weeks and continued accelerating through all 4 weeks. For beginners, 4 additions to your daily routine deliver a meaningful polyphenol dose. Half a cup of blueberries at breakfast, a handful of spinach at lunch, extra virgin olive oil drizzled over dinner, a cup of green tea in the afternoon. Those 4 habits alone are associated in multiple studies with measurable reductions in inflammatory markers over 6 to 8 weeks. For advanced practitioners, diversity matters as much as quantity. Eating the same polyphenol sources every day produces diminishing returns because the gut microbiome adapts. Rotate through different colored vegetables, different berries, different herbs throughout the week. Eat the rainbow is not a marketing phrase. It is a mechanistic recommendation grounded in how the microbiome processes these compounds. Real outcome. Clinical trials have documented reductions in the primary blood marker of systemic inflammation of 20 to 40% in older adults who significantly increased polyphenol intake over 8 to 12 weeks. That marker, CRP, is directly correlated with biological aging rate. Lower it and you slow the clock. Now here's my second question for the comments, and I want you to be honest because it genuinely shapes what I make next. Out of the 3 principles we have covered so far, which one feels most achievable for you this week? And which one feels hardest? Tell me below. You will probably find that others in this community are in exactly the same position. Principle 4. Rebuild your gut microbiome deliberately. Your gut microbiome is not a passive digestive assistant. It is an active participant in your biological aging. It produces neurotransmitters. It regulates immune function. It metabolizes food into bioactive compounds that either promote or suppress inflammation. And its composition changes entirely based on what you feed it. Here is the specific connection to biological aging. A healthy, diverse gut microbiome produces short-chain fatty acids, particularly one called butyrate, as it ferments dietary fiber. Butyrate has direct epigenetic effects. It influences the enzymes that regulate gene expression. It promotes the activity of genes associated with cellular repair. It suppresses the activity of genes associated with inflammation and accelerated aging. It slows the biological clock at the level of your DNA. When the microbiome is depleted, as it is in most seniors who have eaten processed foods for decades, this epigenetic protection disappears. Cells age faster. Inflammatory markers rise. Biological age accelerates. Rebuilding it requires 2 categories of food every single day: prebiotic foods that feed beneficial bacteria and probiotic foods that replenish them directly. Prebiotics for seniors: garlic, onions, asparagus, oats, flax seeds, lentils, apples. These need to be regular, not occasional. A stir-fry with garlic and onion, oats at breakfast, an apple in the afternoon, lentils with dinner twice a week. Probiotics for seniors: plain live culture yogurt, kefir. Small portions daily make a measurable difference in microbiome diversity within 4 to 6 weeks. The simplest daily target from the research: eat 30 different plant foods per week, not 30 servings of the same food. 30 different types. Herbs count, spices count, nuts and seeds count. A bowl of oats with walnuts, flax seeds, blueberries, and cinnamon contains 5 different plant foods on its own. 30 per week is far more achievable than it sounds. Real outcome. A landmark Stanford study found that a high-fiber, fermented food diet increased microbiome diversity and reduced inflammatory markers in older adults in just 10 weeks. The biological age implications were measurable and significant, and the intervention required nothing more expensive than the foods we just discussed. Now, the revelation. Here is the principle the University of Sydney study identified as having the single largest measurable impact on biological age reversal. The one that reframes everything else. It is not a specific food. It is not a supplement. It is not a dietary rule. It is caloric quality. Let me be precise about what this means because the distinction is critical and often misunderstood. Caloric restriction means eating less. And while the research suggests modest benefit from caloric restriction in younger adults, for seniors it comes with serious risks. Muscle loss, bone density reduction, nutritional deficiencies, immune suppression. For most adults over 65, eating less is not the right lever. Caloric quality is different. It means ensuring that every single calorie you consume is delivering maximum biological value, maximum nutrient density, maximum polyphenols, maximum fiber, maximum anti-inflammatory compounds, 0 empty calories, 0 inflammatory additives, 0 foods that cost your body more than they give it. The researchers measured this using something called the Dietary Inflammatory Index, a validated tool that scores the overall inflammatory potential of a person's diet based on the specific foods and nutrients consumed. Participants whose scores improved most, meaning their diet became the most anti-inflammatory, showed the greatest and fastest reductions in biological age. The foods with the highest positive impact on that score: fatty fish, eggs, leafy greens, berries, legumes, olive oil, turmeric, garlic, whole grains with intact fiber, green tea. The foods with the worst impact: ultra-processed packaged foods, refined carbohydrates, processed meats, sugary drinks, fried foods, and poor quality oils. Here is the insight that I want you to carry from this video. You do not need to eat less to reverse biological aging. You need to eat differently. Every meal is either aging you or protecting you. There is no neutral. Every single bite of food sends a signal to your epigenome. And the direction of your biological age is determined by the signal you send most consistently. Now let me come back to Grace. I saw her again 5 months after that conversation, where she said she felt like she was disappearing inside her own body. I had shared the research with her. I had given her a framework built around the same 4 principles I gave you today. No supplements, no program, no radical elimination. Just a deliberate shift in the quality of what she ate every day. Her inflammation markers had dropped significantly. Her energy had returned in a way that she described as feeling like a light had come back on. She was walking further, recovering faster, sleeping more deeply. Her blood panel told a story that her chronological age could not explain. She sat across from me and said, "I feel like myself again. Not younger, just fully myself. The way I was supposed to feel." What Grace did was not heroic. It was consistent. She removed ultra-processed foods 1 category at a time. She chose anti-inflammatory proteins at every meal. She added polyphenols deliberately every single day. She rebuilt her gut microbiome with prebiotic and probiotic foods, and she made every calorie earn its place on her plate. 4 weeks is what the research required to show measurable biological age reversal. Not a year of perfection, not a lifetime of sacrifice. 4 weeks of intentional eating. You have everything you need to start today. Here are the 3 things I want you to carry away from this video. Your biological age is not fixed. It responds to what you eat. The science documenting this is peer-reviewed, published, and no longer speculative. It is settled enough that I am sharing it with every patient I see. The 4 principles work together. Remove ultra-processed foods, choose anti-inflammatory protein, flood your body with polyphenols, rebuild your gut microbiome. None of them are complicated. All of them are achievable starting this week. And caloric quality is the master variable. You do not need to eat less. You need to eat better. Every meal is a signal. Make the signal work for you. If this video gave you something you needed today, if it named something you had been feeling but could not explain, please share it with someone you love who is over 65. Because the gap between what the research now knows and what most people have been told is still far too wide. And you can be the person who closes that gap for someone in your life. The people who follow this channel are not passive about their health. They are the people in their family and their community who take this seriously and act on it. The ones who share the video, the ones who print out the information, the ones everyone calls when something goes wrong. If that is you, and I believe it is because you are still here, then you belong in this community. Next week, I am covering two things this audience needs urgently. First, the sleep protocol that the same research team identified as multiplying the biological age reversal effect of everything we discussed today. Diet and sleep work together on the epigenome in ways that compound each other. Miss the sleep piece and you are leaving significant reversal on the table. Second, the truth about the 5 supplements being most heavily marketed to seniors right now. Which ones have genuine evidence? Which ones are a waste of money? And the one that genuinely surprised me when I went through the current data carefully. Subscribe so you are here for both of those. Take care of yourself. Take care of the people you love, and I will see you in the next one.